All right, we're talking with Air Force veteran Michael Buzinski with Buzzworthy Marketing. So, Michael, or as they like to call you, Buzz, take us back. Tell us what you did in the Air Force.
Oh man, Air Force, 1996. I joined the Air Force and became a CDMT, which is computer display maintenance technician, on board the E3 Century AWACS, which is a airborne warning and control system. So just think of it like a flying air traffic control system. So we'd be in theater controlling like tankers, fighters, uh, linking ground communications. We dealt with pretty much every branch of the service in theater to coordinate attacks and defense and stuff like that in the airspace.
Yeah, is the is the AWACS an old Boeing 707?
It is, and
Is
it
that the
was.
airframe?
It is now decommissioned. I am now officially old. I flew. I got out in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
so now we're talking 20 years ago, and they just decommissioned them this year,
Yeah,
2025.
I know how you feel. The whiskey model Cobra is in the Naval Aviation Museum now. So now they're on the Z model.
Ah, there you go.
Not
Yeah,
sure
we
what
actually
happens when
worked.
you.
We used to work with the EA6s a lot,
Uh-huh.
which is your guys's. It was used. We used it for jamming
Yes,
ground sites, and so going into corridors and jamming the ground sites so the F-15s can come in and blow them up. Then let the Marines go do what they do best.
that's right. Yeah. AWACS. There's a number of funny stories out there about. There was a story. I think it was a couple of F-14 Tomcats that like bumped into each other or something, and they got their story straight via radio with each other. Between the two aircraft, and got back and had this whole excuse as to what happened, which was a lie. And there was an AWACS that had picked up the entire conversation on the radio. I think it was an AWACS, and
Yep.
and sent it to whatever the command was, and it didn't go well for this guy.
Oh yeah.
I was like, you never
Actually,
know when an AWACS is going to be around listening to what you're
yeah.
saying.
I think that was a rivet joint, which is also a 707
Could have been,
airframe,
yeah.
and that's communications collection. That's like the whole thing is like communications collection. So yeah, that's they record that. We would have recorded the blips on the screen as watching them bump into each other.
Yeah, crazy story, but yeah, so somebody's always listening. Yeah,
Oh
especially
yeah.
nowadays.
Especially when you got multi-million, hundreds of millions of dollars in your hand flying
Mhm.
around and
Yeah.
over
Anyway,
other
so
sovereign countries.
so how long were you in the Air Force?
10 years.
Okay, and
I
so
got out.
yeah, talk about your transition. Was it planned? Were you thinking ahead, or did it just come up and hit you in the head?
Yeah, so I was 22 when I joined the service. I had already climbed a couple of short corporate ladders
Hmm.
during high school. I was also a high school dropout for a few years as I was pursuing that space. And I was in sales and marketing early on because as a teenager, without a high school degree, the only thing you can get into is sales and marketing. Like that's the thing. And I ended up being natural at it.
Yeah.
And so I had already kind of had some years on me there. Both my parents were in the Air Force. My grandfather was in the Air Force, but both my parents did 11 years. My dad basically said, "I wish I would have done the 20." My mom stayed in the reserves and actually finished out and retired. Um, and I said to myself when I went in, I'm going to get in, get out of California. I was kind of tired of the corporate stuff. And so my whole goal was to do my service, get a college degree in my first 6 years. I signed up for 6 years, and uh, and then get out because my dad's like basically if you do a day over 10, just do 20, right? Type of thing.
Yep.
And of course, at the end of the 6 years, I was still pursuing my music career in the background.
Hmm.
And I was working part-time working musician from the age of 13 to 28. And so I had not done the college, so I decided to do 4 more years and see what I could do because I didn't have anything to get out and do. And that's when I ended up in Alaska in 2001.
Hmm.
And at the end of that, the they wanted to send me back to Oklahoma, and I was like, nope, not good to go back. I didn't really like Tinker Air Force Base all that much and the politics and stuff like that were there. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to get out because I really don't want to go rotten in the middle of Oklahoma. And so I didn't have a plan. I didn't have my degrees even after 10 years.
Yeah.
Um, And I didn't want to go work for, Home Depot or, where a lot of military guys go to rot and not rot, but just like they just don't have anything else. Like they haven't figured out what they want to be when they grow up.
Yep.
And I didn't want to go work for Boeing and down in Seattle. And so I started a recording studio. It was actually the first version of my entrepreneurial career in
Really.
2005, BuzzBiz Studios. And I quickly realized that surviving off of starving musicians was a horrible business plan. And that me as a part-time working musician was one of the very few that had like good working jobs all the way through. Like even when I was in high school, I had a really good working job. That's what paid for all the gear,
Hmm.
right? Type of thing. So I immediately pivoted into media production, and then that grew into a creative agency. And we had a 13,000 square foot facility in downtown Anchorage.
Well,
And by 2018, I completely burnt myself out. I owned a job. My boss was an ass, didn't treat me very well, didn't give me a lot of money, and overworked me. So I told him I've got to do business different. So I told everybody I'm going to shut the building down. Didn't really enjoy owning the building. So I said, all right, we're going to get rid of this building and you can still work for me, but you're going to have to work from home. And of course, majority of my employees were millennials at the time in 2018, did not understand the joys of working from home,
hmm.
as they all now beg to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just kind of basically rebranded into the Buzzworthy brand, now known as Buzzworthy Strategies. And yeah, for the last 7 years, we've just been getting really good at working remotely. We're a 100% remote company.
Nice. Take a quick break. I'll be right back. All right, back time with Air Force veteran Michael Buzinski with Buzzworthy Strategies. So, Buzz, you hear a lot. There's a lot of companies out there that are marketing companies, like marketing sales. I mean, there's
Hmm.
millions of them. Um, Many of them are, they're like a dime a dozen. Many of them don't do a whole lot. You know, I've had experiences with them myself. So, what is it makes you guys different?
So, Buzzworthy Strategies is a strategy first marketing and sales firm. Okay. And we work specifically with B2B service based firms. So, it could be like a technology or maybe a professional services like CPAs or law. Any business that serves other businesses, we work with them, and usually in the founder led space. And the folks that have made it out of the six-figure space, and they're doing over $2 million and up, and really trying to build a business beyond the founder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we help that transition there. So one, we're very focused. That is something that is not as prevalent as one would wish in the market, because there are so many marketers out there. There's so much help that is needed. But the biggest thing that we're finding, above the fact that we have over 2 centuries worth of expertise in our roster, we've been around for 20 years, which most marketing firms have not. Puts us up in like the top half percentile of longevity as far as that goes, and trustworthiness. But we take a fiduciary approach to marketing. We actually call ourselves fiduciary marketers, because marketing is an investment, and you need somebody that has a fiduciary responsibility to look after that investment, just like you would with your retirement.
Mm-hmm. So, when you say marketing, that
Mhm.
means a lot of different things to people. So, does marketing mean Facebook? Does it mean TikTok? Does it mean X? Does it mean all social media, or is it nothing to do with social media? What does it mean? Is it different for every company?
Right. So marketing as in itself is defined as the actions that draw people in to your ecosystem. Okay. So it's the magnet. Okay. That's in your messaging, it's all that stuff. Social media and blogging and all of these things, these are tactics that are used within the marketing strategy. How are we going to pull people in? Right. And so we always say is that intel or intelligence feeds strategy, strategy feeds tactics. We usually run into the fact that most businesses are suffering from random acts of marketing, and they then suffer again even deeper into the 50-50 marketing paradox. They get themselves caught there because 50% of what they're doing works. They just don't know which 50%. So they keep doing all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So social media is not marketing. Social media is a tactic that feeds a marketing strategy. And so if you don't have the how we're going to do things, all of the what's, like you were talking about, email marketing, social media marketing, all that, the marketing end of each one of those tactics is a misnomer. They are a marketing tactic that is social media. That is a marketing tactic that is email marketing or email, not email marketing, email. Email is the tactic that you're going to use it in a marketing sense. But marketing is the construct of how everything ties together. And so, to answer your question better and concisely,
Hmm.
with all that, understanding that is that we build that strategy for our clients so they understand the full picture of why they're going to do any of those things that you had mentioned. Because if you don't understand the why and it's not integrated in with everything working together, you waste a lot of time, energy, and money trying to do all the things for really no reason because you haven't created that overarching how are we going to get to where we want to be.
How difficult is that to explain to a lot of business owners?
Business owners is a lot easier because we ask them, it's like, so what are you doing for your marketing right now? And they do exactly what you said. Oh, you do a little bit. I was just on a call this morning, actually. I'll give you them an example.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, we heard that you can, one of our goals, our primary goal is to double revenue for our clients in the first 12 months of working with them. Okay. So if you're at 2 million, we want to see it 4 million. You're 4 million, we want to see you at 8 million and so on. Okay. And so this company's heard that and said, "Hey, we're interested in doing that." Okay, great. And we're thinking email marketing is going to be where we want to try because we've already tried this LinkedIn thing with this other agency, dot, dot, dot. And it says, "Really?" And so we started talking about why they would think email marketing would be any different than what they were doing with the other folks. And they're like, "Well, they haven't tried it." I was like, "But what if it is the fact that LinkedIn could actually do what you wanted to do? You just don't know how to do it." Remember? We need to figure out how we're going to get there. They don't have any strategy. So now I have the dog wagging the tail with LinkedIn and it's not doing anything. Like the
Hmm.
leads they were getting were people looking for jobs, not getting on calls with clients because
Yeah.
they had no strategy behind doing that. And so once we show them that what a random acts of marketing look like, it's super easy to sit and go like, so a strategy would be something you're not doing right now, and nobody's actually showing you this. And so when you basically take that 5 minutes to tell them that, or show them that, I should say, it all clicks really easy because they're okay. So how do we get a strategy? And now we're getting into the how, love how versus what.
Interesting. Um, how long does it take for you to put something like that together?
So our first win, we always preach to our clients that we got to get a first win
Yeah.
fast, right? And so for years we did the initial work because you needed. So this is the crazy thing. So people come to me and say, "Hey, I need marketing." Okay, and I'm thinking social media marketing or email marketing or uh, Google Ads or SEO or anything like that. They're like, "Hey, you guys do that, right?" I was like, "That is something that gets done, yes, but that's not what we do. We create the plan." Right. And to create a plan of what to do and how to get to where we want to be, we have to have a diagnostic of where you're at. So for years, we would do a 90-day process of getting people to where pointed in the right direction. The bad thing was that meant 90 days it really took for us to get that first big win, right?
Hmm.
Clarity was the biggest thing because they like random acts of marketing, 50/50 paradox, like all that's like very confusing. Like I don't understand, right? So we're like, okay, how can we condense that? Well, now we can get the research and a lot of the things done through automation and AI that help us speed this from 90 days down to 3 weeks. We can create a SWOT analysis for a company, give them a top three competitor analysis of who they're actually competing against, because most times they'll give us three names and we'll show them why they are not their competition and these other three are, which helps in their strategy, right?
Hmm.
And then a 90-day roadmap, getting them pointed in the right direction So, and getting whatever is missing currently before they take on, say, it's email or social or well, any of those types of things. Now we have the foundation, any holes maybe in their current foundation. So within 3 weeks, they got great clarity and they understand where they're going. That in itself takes a whole big load off the shoulders of founders, just like that. And that's our fast win. Our next win happens by the end of those next 90 days. And then hopefully by the end of the 12 months, we've doubled their revenue.
Do you have a problem, for lack of a better term, you have a problem getting credit for them doubling their revenue? As in, like, are you able to quantify that and directly attribute it to marketing and what you've done?
So because I'm about to write a book about the 50-50 marketing paradox, right? 50% of your marketing is working, you just don't know why, which one, so you keep all of it. That's
Yeah.
because they don't track it well. One of the first things we
Yeah.
do is help owners understand where their business is coming from. I did a I had a client at one point, and this is back when we were working in the B2C, so business to consumer space. And I had a gym owner, and they put out a jar with a sack of paper that said, "Hey, how'd you hear about us?" And we'd been doing all their marketing, and they put in their social media, TV advertising, radio advertising, and I think we had one other one. It was like a sponsorship or something like that. I said, "Hey, at the bottom, put newspaper." And they go, "Newspaper?" I says, "Yeah, newspaper." "We don't do newspaper." I says, "Yeah, put it down there. Nobody's going to mark it." "Okay. Well, if they don't, it won't be, it doesn't cost you any extra, right?" You know that over 10% of the people who put slots in there marked newspaper and they've never been in a newspaper. The same problem the consumer has, the owner has. They think they know where the numbers are coming from. They think this, and that. So we show them how to track attribution. And once we've done that, they know exactly where their business is at. And so
Yeah.
it's never a matter of us trying to convince them that that's it. We just show them their own numbers that they have full access to 24/7 because so many people try to. I wrote a book on, it's called The Rule of 26, that really shows there's like only three metrics in website marketing, right? Where you're actually using your website as the core of getting new business. And there's like, if you go to like a CRM that's called HubSpot, they have 138 KPIs, key performance indicators that you can track for your marketing. And I'm like, nobody's doing that. I'm not doing that as a marketer. I don't want to look at that many KPIs. I was like, which ones actually move revenue needles? Because the rest of them are what we call vanity metrics. They just make us feel good. They make the marketer look good, right?
Mhm.
Or they think
Got
it makes them look
followers.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got followers, I got likes, I got engagement. Da, 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 da. And at some level, at a tactical level, that means something to the technician, the social media manager and stuff like that, right?
Mm.
But to the owner, the only KPIs that matter are the ones that go directly to top line revenue and ROI. And so I wrote a whole book called The Rule of 26 on, listen, you only worry about the traffic that comes in, how much of that traffic converts, and what value that traffic brought when they did buy. And if you can
Yeah.
increase each of those by 26%, you'll double your revenue there,
So what
just
is
in
it
that.
that does that? What is it is it software? Like, oh, initially this guy saw us on LinkedIn and then he was on our email list and then he went to our website and then he bought.
So most people don't set up their tracking properly. Most of your traffic is going to have a digital footprint, and that digital footprint can be tracked and identified and then put it into your CRM. And if you set up your CRM correctly, you can see the entire picture. So
Hmm.
I have a colleague who used to think that he got most of his business from public speaking. And so he went into hyper growth mode and he's like, I got to get on like, a stage a week. He wanted to be on over 50 stages in a year. He was only doing like maybe a dozen to maybe a dozen a year, about one
Yeah.
once a month. He wanted to go to one every week, right?
Yeah.
And then we did the numbers and everything. We looked at all the numbers and we realized that actually, no, that wasn't going to get him to where he wanted to be. And the ROI on all that travel, because a lot of that times he's going to a stage where they don't necessarily pay for him to be there, but he can make money being on that stage because he can sell from stage,
Hmm.
right? And so we looked at the time commitment plus the monetary commitment and the possible outcomes with the historical data that we already had. And we realized, you stay home. You do these other exercises here. You go work on your business. Let's have these other things leverage your time and so that it can work for your business, not you work for your business. So it all has to do with that initial, in the initial 90 days that we work with our clients, they understand numbers like they've never understood numbers before. And we show them how to get to any number they want, but we also reveal the only numbers that they should care about because they can tie those numbers directly to their revenue. Those are the only ones that matter.
Yeah. And you don't have a problem getting to that granularity figuring it out.
No, it's super. If you know what you're doing, it's super easy, right?
So you
I've got
mentioned,
somebody who
yeah,
is a
yeah.
hawk when it comes to like, and we call them their UTMs and tags, and there's a bunch of mumbo jumbo that my owners don't care about.
Hmm.
They just care like, can I get this number on this dashboard? And that's usually where they're looking. They're just looking at a simple dashboard. So we can show them how activity flows to the top line revenue and say, okay. And I like to keep things as simple in the threes. So we never look at usually more than three metrics for any given motion that ties directly to. If I can't get to revenue in three steps, if I can't directly affect it in three steps or three KPIs, then it's too convoluted.
Hmm.
And most businesses that are in the seven figures or under eight figures don't need any more complexity than that. People overcomplicate their processes, thinking that that's what's going to get them there
Hmm.
versus simplification. If you can simplify the process, you can build it faster because it's replicatable, right? So I just was talking with a colleague this morning who was saying that she doesn't believe that the single ICP, she thinks that's all a farce. Like, because she had a client who had 7 years of like, oh, I'm just not growing because I'm only using this one ICP. And it's like, it's not the single ICP that's hurting her. It's that her focus is not landing with that ICP. And so she's trying to change the wrong thing. Now,
Hmm.
if you're a startup business, guess what? You need to talk to as many people that you can help as possible because you got to figure yourself out. You got to figure out what your identity is. It took me 13 years to realize I really only I get the most leverage out of my success with clients in the B2B service-based space. And I did that. I had to serve over 1,200 companies to figure that out.
Huh.
Lots. I'm
Yeah.
hard-headed.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes
So,
some stuff like that's not so obvious,
well,
takes
it's
you a while to
because
come
I
around
made
to it.
millions of dollars doing all of the things for all the people. I didn't know that I was burning myself out. It took me 13 years to burn out.
Mm.
Once I burnt out, then I started realizing what was burning me out. The complexity of my own business. I had five different departments that could be five different companies on their own. And I was running them under one roof,
Yeah.
right? And so we could go on another episode about how that works and finding a way to have a single point of entry for a company that serves all of the things you can do for somebody. But everybody tries to say all the things they do for all the people they can do it for versus a nice focused, what we call focus to fit. Fix one clearly urgent struggle. If you can identify the biggest pain point that your clients have to solve before you can really get to the meat of what you can do for them, your marketing gets super clean, super clear, and super simple to scale. And that's what we help people do.
Yeah. Wow. Little pivot here. You mentioned something earlier about you mostly deal with companies that are trying to grow beyond their founder.
Mm-hmm.
Something that comes up on this podcast all the time with we're talking about small businesses and solo entrepreneurs. Um, do you see that a lot with companies where um, I see it all the time where there's a lot of businesses where the owner loves the fact that the company relies on themselves. Like they don't want it to grow beyond themselves, or they
Mm-hmm.
like the idea of it growing beyond themselves, but they love the control and they love the dependency, the fact that their company's dependent on them. Do you run across that, or have over the years? I'm sure you've seen that many times.
Too many times. And there's a couple of reasons it happens. Okay, so the ones who like to be the single point of knowledge have a few things that can be happening. They can have an ego issue.
Yep.
All right, they can have imposter syndrome. Oh shoot, if somebody's better at this than me, then why do they need me?
Mm-hmm.
That was my problem. I actually probably fractured my own culture because I had imposter syndrome so bad that if I thought, well, if you guys don't need me, then why am I here and why would you work for me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's
Always,
bad.
always
Okay.
being the smartest man in the room, huh?
Yeah. And so now right, that's not how I do it now. We have 2 centuries worth of expertise. Everybody in my company that works for me, except for maybe one person in the administrative space, is smarter than me. There's a difference between owning a business and being an entrepreneur. If you want to own a business, you need to be the center of everything. You are the sun. Everything revolves around you. You are now a business owner. You own a job.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an entrepreneur, you need to leverage other people's talents to get to your vision. Visionaries are entrepreneurs. Integrators are business owners. And there you need both in every business. And so those who like being like they want like there's a guy named Michael Gerber who wrote the E Myth.
Yes.
It's about okay, you remember that book,
I
right? I
read it
used to give
like
that thing away so many
God, like a
times.
long time ago, like 30
Yeah, yeah.
years ago. Like, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a newer book now by a guy named Mike Michalowicz who wrote Clockwork. Same concept, updated
Mm-hmm.
approach. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those books are still great. Michael Gerber is still great. His son is now taking it over, and his name is Michael Gerber, so it's still around. Um, but you had the parable of the baker. Okay. So what you're talking about usually comes out from the person who starts the business is the baker. And
Yeah.
it's the woman who started by making pies and everybody loved her pies and people would pay her to make pies and cakes for their friends' birthdays and their kids and all the other stuff. And so she decided, okay, I'm going to go become a baker, right? And then it gets into the business of things and finds out that that she never actually gets to make cakes anymore and makes pies anymore because she has to run the business.
Yep.
Okay. And so you have to decide whether you want to be the person running the business or a person who doesn't mind a business running you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you need that, and for whatever reason, and that's fine. If you, I ask people, are you looking for a lifestyle business? Because if you're looking for a lifestyle business, I'm not your guy because I scale businesses past their owners
Mm-hmm.
so that they can have entrepreneurial freedom. See, there's 3 phases. I don't know if I have time for this. I'll try
Yeah.
to squeeze it in really quick here. There are 3 phases of entrepreneurialism. If you want to be an entrepreneur, okay. One, we all want it, and that's financial independence.
Yep.
Can I print money on demand? That's financial independence. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you then your second phase, which is getting entrepreneurial freedom. There's a lot of us that can print money, right? But not all of us can walk away from our company and have it still print money while we're not there. That's entrepreneurial freedom.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurial freedom then allows us to get to the third phase, which is impact. Entrepreneurs are always looking how can they impact their community, the world, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
What is the legacy you're going to leave behind? It's usually not the business. But you can't go towards impact if you don't already have financial independence and entrepreneurial freedom.
Yep.
And so that right there will dictate whether or not a person can get out of the founder led rut and actually become an entrepreneur.
Well said, man. I'm glad I asked that question. Well, Buzz, we are getting close to the end of our time. First of all, how do we find more about Buzzworthy Marketing and you? Where do we find you?
Buzzworthy strategies can be found at buzzworthy.biz. And if your listeners are interested in the book that we talked about, The Rule of
Yes.
26, just go to ruleof26.com and they can get a free copy. I will even sign it. All I do is ask that you pay for the shipping and handling.
Awesome. And I always like to ask, being a veteran, if you're talking to somebody that's just getting out of the military, just get out of the military, they want to run their own business, want to become an entrepreneur, want to run their own show. Now that we know the difference, what
Right.
kind of advice? You've worked with a lot of veterans over the years. What kind of advice comes to mind talking to somebody in the military wanting to get into entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is a very lonely space. It is much different than being in the military, where you basically are given your friends, right? You get into a squadron, you get into a platoon, whatever. All you have to do is pick one or two people out of the 300 that you were just been told you have to hang out with for the next 3 or 4 years, right?
Hmm.
Right? You don't have that in entrepreneurialism. Okay. It's very lonely. And so find a support system that will help you through that process. I volunteer for an organization called Warrior Rising. You can go to warriorrising.org. They have an academy to get you started and help you get the things that I wish I had back in 2005 to help me not make the mistakes that I made back then, or help you not make those mistakes that pretty much every entrepreneur makes. But it also gives you this support system of other veterans becoming what we call vetrepreneurs. Another one to look at is ownersinhonor.org. So if you don't want to build something from scratch and you would like to get an entrepreneur through acquisition or franchising, that organization is a wonderful organization. I volunteer my time for both of those because of my journey, and you don't have to do it alone. There's a lot of organizations. Those are my two favorite.
Great. Yeah. Like I've heard of Warrior Rising. I haven't heard of the second one. So yeah, I'll write those down and put those in the show notes.
Ownersinhonor.org. Yep.
Awesome. All right, Buzz. Well, thanks for sharing your veteran entrepreneur success story. Look forward to seeing your future success. And thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right. These two veterans are Oscar Mike.